Okay. Well, I'm also trying.
Okay. Good to
I'm
say,
just right
Haley.
in Upper Manhattan.
You're in Upper Manhattan. We're in Upper Manhattan.
Everybody riot, organize chaos.
Oh, just in the middle of the Heights.
We're gonna try and say
Okay.
communication and communion with the world's
Fancy.
greatest icons. Vision as a human, yet it's listening to my song.
I felt like Upper West Side and Upper Manhattan is like the only place to live in Manhattan right now. Midtown
Well,
and Village.
Upper West Side's a little weird. Upper West Side's a little weird because of the increase in violence.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, my friend texted me that apparently a woman got decapitated.
What?
What?
Jesus Christ.
No, my friend texted me. She was like, "Hey girl, be safe out there. I just watched the news and a woman got decapitated like around your neighborhood." I was like,
How long ago?
I have
Okay,
no idea.
you
She
are
texted me that
live.
this morning.
Oh shit.
Oh, that's fun.
I was like, "Good thing I don't go outside."
That sounds like
That's a good reason to stay indoors because there's always that risk of being decapitated.
yeah.
Apparently,
That's a good excuse.
Well, I think that the funniest story that I've seen is this naked guy was pushing someone off the subway
can you
train
guys hear
2
me?
weeks ago, and then he ended up fell on the subway train and get crushed or something, but he apparently died of it.
Can you guys hear
I
me?
just want to know why the hell he was naked.
Oh yeah, me too.
I mean, you know,
There might
it
not be a good
happens.
answer to that.
You end up
Can you
naked
guys
on
hear
a
me?
train platform. It happens to all of us.
Well,
I feel like
two.
Naked on a Train is the sequel to Snakes on a Plane.
No.
One,
What
two, can you guys hear me?
What naked on a train is what would happen if you put Naked and Afraid and Snakes on a Plane together.
Yeah,
right.
That's what I think would happen.
I'll go with that.
I mean, it was winter, so you know,
Winter's coming.
yeah.
Oh God.
Or the snow giant or whatever, ice giant or whatever it's called.
Did you just say Snow Gina?
Is it? No, giant.
I thought you said Snow Gina.
I heard Snow
All-
Gina.
All of these Snow Ginas.
I'm still
My
learning
new
my
term
English.
for white women. That's my new term for white women. I'm using that. Snow Ginas.
No, with all the snow in New Jersey, I feel like it showed me it's Snow Gina.
Meanwhile, I left New York, and here I am in sunny Key Biscayne.
I feel bad for James. He gets no Snow Gina.
I get no Snow Gina. It's more like Cinnagina. It's mostly Hispanic here.
I started.
We gotta come up with a different name for it, though. It doesn't have the same ring to it as Snow Gina.
Is this? Are we about to get canceled? Haley, are we getting
Oh,
me
no.
too?
I would have left if
no,
we
I'm
got
just
canceled by
judging.
now.
Is this a
Okay.
Compound Media show? Is this what's happening here?
Oh, we're live. Way to tell me, bro. Thank you.
What a great way to start the show.
Yeah, I was about to call him and ask him this shit, and right before I do it, he tells me this. So apparently we're live, everybody. Okay. Welcome, everybody, to the round table on HamiltonRadio.net, channel HR2. I'm your host, John Brecco, and you just heard a 5-minute conversation about Snow Ginas. Oh, you gotta love it. But
Every conversation should open with such free thinking ideas and concepts and invention.
Yeah, this morning the Gorilla Glue is trending. Tomorrow's Snow Giant is gonna trend on Twitter.
yeah,
we're
we
defining
got it. We got to make that trend. James, help us get Snow Gina trending on Twitter or some shit.
Just because we want to balance this, what could be the equivalent for a man?
Equivalent for a man.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm the equivalent to Snow Gina.
Yes.
yeah, maybe. Oh well, just speaking for myself, an acorn.
I mean, I've got the body of a snowman, so I think it makes sense.
All
We
right.
can go with me. I'll take the bullet for that one. That's fine. But anyways, we got a very, very special show for you guys today. We've got Dante Barnett, the Soup Man. He came back this week for this show. He looked like he just woke up. He's showing off his bald spot and everything. Look at this, man. How you doing, bro?
I got my merch on. I decided to wear my merch. I don't have my curl out, but I've decided to wear it on my.
Hey, that merch
shirt
looks like
instead.
my merch. Oh wait, where?
What? Hold on. What? That's called appropriation if I ever heard it. The white guy staring on the Jerry Curl logo. I mean, what the hell? What's going on, James?
Where?
I've been on the show for 10 minutes and we're beefing. He's like, that's my merch. No, It's my merch. It's my girl.
Hey, so do you have any of my merch there?
I actually have to go out and grab it.
I actually don't.
Give me. I didn't have it on hand actually.
He just decided to
Might be
rep
in London.
himself. We got Haley Marie here. How you doing? What's up?
I'm good. Saw Daniel Radcliffe at the grocery store the other day. That was cool.
Oh yeah, you're not showing off your bald spot like Dante, but it's okay.
Ooh, but I did find my first white hair in the center of my head.
Oh, you did?
I did.
Oh, that's an accomplishment. I love it. We got Jay Yao here. How
What's
you
up?
doing, brother?
I'm good. Nothing much.
Good to see you, man. We've been messaging, back and forth for a while, trying to make this show happen. So I want to start off by saying thank you. I really, really appreciate you doing that, and
You're welcome.
working with me. It meant a lot. And the man we've got, the man of the hour, is a fellow co-owner of Stand Up New York. Got a bunch of different books out. Got a bunch of interesting hobbies that I definitely want to talk to him about. He's a writer. Bunch of different. He's a man of many hats. Ladies and gentlemen, James Alchter is here. I hope I pronounced that right.
Yeah, it's good enough. And John, thank you guys for having me on the show. I really appreciate it. This is fun.
Thank
Hamilton
you for coming
Radio.
on, man. I appreciate you. But actually, how I found out about you, I watched the episode on Broadway Comedy Club Radio with you, Al Martin, Clayton Fletcher. And I actually realized that we were friends on Facebook after that show, which was weird. But it made sense, though, because I have a lot of different comedians that I'm friends with on Facebook that, I became friends with and I didn't even realize it. I meet them like 3 months down the road. And I'm like, you know what? I should add this person.
Yeah, I'm glad you have me. And I'm glad you listened
And
to
then I
Al.
look at it, I'm like, oh, shit.
I'm glad you listened to Al's show, too. He's got a good show.
Yeah, no, Al has a tremendous show. I love listening to Al's show. It's really good. But I do want to, start with a couple icebreaker questions, about, some of the things that you've written. And, first I want to start with, like, life hacks. There were 10 in total when I read the article. And the first one was carrying $2 bills, because if you tip somebody with a $2 bill, they'll remember you. Wearing a lab coat in an airport because people apparently let you pass them in line. I'm thinking it's because you're like a doctor or some shit, which would make sense. But apparently mirroring people to see if they do it back in 15 minutes, because if they do, that means they like you.
And I don't know if that's on my list. You know why?
No?
And the $2 bills, the lab coats, there's some other ones. It could be on my list, but I feel like a lot of people write all these life hacks that can't really be tested, or it's too difficult to test. Like sometimes I'll try to mirror someone just to see if that works. And maybe it works sometimes, maybe it doesn't work. I can't really tell. Whereas I know for a fact, like the life hacks that I use on a regular basis work. And because I'm sensitive to that word life hack, like I feel it's overused a little bit. And like the $2 bills one, whenever I move to a new town, and I've been doing this since 1989. Whenever I move to a new town, I load up on $2 bills. And the way you do that, you go to the bank and you say, I'd like to get $1,000 worth of $2 bills. They get the $2 bills from the Federal Reserve because they don't have it just lying around there. And then I tip every place I go to for the first few months, I tip in $2 bills. And then everyone remembers me. So it's like a good... I'm a shy person, so it's a good conversation starter. It's a good way to be remembered if you want to be remembered. And it's funny, when I moved to New York City, for instance, I even did it. And in some of the places that I hung out, like $2 bills, you could see were part of the economy all of a sudden because the $2 bills would circulate. So it was interesting to see them, being spent and used, and everybody remembered me.
Yeah, and it's interesting to see it when you see what was probably your $2 bill, like, a couple of months later, just getting recycled back to you. I can imagine that's like a weird feeling. You're like, I had this once.
Yeah, I should have marked them so I could test that out, but I never did that. That would have been the smart thing to do.
It's all good. But
imagine going to a strip club with only $2 bills.
Oh my God,
I have never tried that. But it's funny. I've been looking for, states used to make their own currency, like banks in the 1800s each bank had its own currency. There was like US currency, but also each bank had legitimate currency for that area. And there were some banks actually that had $3 bills. So if anyone ever says like, the euros, whatever, as a $3 bill, I was thinking of having some $3 bills to give them. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but
Yeah. Appropriating $3 bills. Look at this motherfucker right here. Y'all have never actually seen a $3 bill.
no
Like
one has. It's like very extremely rare. You've probably never seen this 1800s bank currency because they're all rare now.
I'm still mad at the way he said just go in and get $1,000 worth of $2 bills. Like he's a real successful person. The rest of us are like, that's rent, man. I'm not grabbing $1,000 worth of $2 bills.
Okay, one time. So in 1995, I did my first website for money. Which sounds like whatever, but so I did a website for money, and this guy paid me. It was a diamond dealer who wanted to make a website, and he paid me in a bag of cash. And I always wanted to live in this one building in New York City, so I walked over to that building with this bag of cash, and I found the owner of the building, and I said, "Can I rent an apartment here?" And he said, "Well, what do he had like some standards." He's like, "Okay, what do you do for a living? Whatever, blah blah blah." And then he said, "Okay, you could pay, and it's this amount." And so I just gave him the bag of cash, and I said, "Just take this." And there was $17,500 cash in it. And it was all my money. It was all my money because I just did this job and I got paid. And he's like, "What are you, a drug dealer?" Because I had all this cash in a paper bag. But the building had the building did have a lot of drug dealers in it, so that was actually acceptable to him.
He's not going to check everybody else, so he may as well just not even check you, to be honest.
No, in fact, my neighbor in this building was a drug dealer, and it would be weird. Like at 3 a.m, like there would be this huge line of basically middle-aged women for some reason, just lining out his door for heroin.
Yeah,
I mean, they have to cope with their husbands somehow.
Yeah, that could be.
Oh,
it could
Jesus Christ. It's cheaper than childcare, right? Just get high on heroin all day.
That's not a bad idea. That's the first of many ideas we're going to come up with on this podcast.
Yeah, man. The whole cast of Sex and the City saw no way out, so they just coped with heroin and made a line outside somebody's door.
I mean, heroin, most people don't realize it, but we've all had heroin quite a bit. Like Percocet or Vicodin is a form of heroin.
Yeah, I've probably had it at some point. I don't know where from, but it's probably happened.
In the dentist's office.
All right, yeah, that makes sense. But I think the best, life hack that I wrote, my personal favorite, is the one where you carry waiter's pads with you to write ideas down. You pack businesses cards in them. Apparently, people think you're frugal and clever. You also mentioned that's a good conversation starter because people tell you, "Yeah, I'll take fries with that order." And you write that you leave it up to us to come up with a witty response. But the question that I want to ask you are, what are some of the responses that James has come up with? That's what I want to know.
Yeah. So the waiter's pet happened. I was really depressed. I had gone totally dead broke after making a lot of money selling a company, but then I went from millions to I went from being a multi-millionaire to being only a single hundredaire. So I had $143 left in my ATM account, and after having generational wealth, and I was so depressed. I thought I had won the lottery, and there was no way I was ever going to make money ever again. And I didn't even understand what it meant to be happy. Like I couldn't believe people were walking around and they knew how to do things like smile and stuff like that. And then for some reason, I wandered into a restaurant supply store. And I just love the look of waiter's pads, these thin blue pads. And, they have little pictures of tables on them. And it's very easy to like write a list. It's you can write a bullet pointed list, but you can't write more than that. And the next day so I bought a box of these. It's for like $100 or for $10, I bought 100 pads. And the next day I took it out with me to a cafe and I just started writing down ideas for things I can do to maybe make some money, or books I could write, or businesses I could start, or other ideas. And I started doing this every day. And within just like a month or two, I felt like literally the chemistry of my brain had changed. Like I was excited again and I was coming up with ideas. It was almost like, having ideas was a muscle, and I had learned how to exercise it, and I was getting better at coming up with ideas, and I was understanding why sometimes my ideas would fail, some would work, some wouldn't. And so that became that changed my life in so many ways. But the life hack aspect of it is you go to a meeting and everyone pulls out their like $700 moleskin pads those are just like BS. No offense to anyone who's got one. And then they get their expensive pens, and then it's like a way of like, signaling how successful they are at a meeting. So I then just flop out the waiter's pad, and somebody will inevitably say, I'll take fries with that order. And then people ask me, why do I have this? And I say, I'm very frugal, and they know obviously everyone else has got these expensive notebooks. I say I'm very frugal, and I like waiter's pads. And also they're easy to keep notes in, and you could keep a waiter's pad in your pocket. And so, but my response to I'll take fries with that order, I usually don't have really a good response. I'll usually just say, do you want ketchup with that or something stupid? Nothing fancy. Yeah. I should come up with a better response now that I think about it. That's the second idea from this podcast that my second takeaway.
I like it. What I think you should do is just try to point them to the next McDonald's and tell them you don't have shit for them.
Yeah, like what do I look like, a fucking restaurant? We're here for a meeting.
Really?
You got to take me seriously. Look here, look in my eyes, not at my pad.
Yeah, just like my eyes are up here. That's what you should go for.
Yeah, my eyes are up here. We're having a meeting.
You don't need to be looking down here. My eyes are up here.
Doesn't mean I'm a waiter, okay? Just because I'm dressed like this.
Yeah, why are you making assumptions? When you assume, you make an ass out of you and me, as they said on the TV show The Odd Couple in the 70s.
Exactly. So I realize, what's down here. My eyes are up here. That's all.
Okay, I'm going to use that. Third good takeaway from this podcast.
But I noticed that two of your favorite hobbies are chess and ping pong. These are actually two things that I want to get better at. And the reason why I want to get better at chess and ping pong is both because of college. Chess, there used to be this guy that would beat me every single time for 4 years. I beat him maybe twice. And ping pong, I just want to get better at because I was actually really good at that when I was in college because I was playing all the time. The main thing I did was air hockey, but I could play a pretty mean game of ping pong back in the day. That's like 4 years ago, but hey,
the great thing about getting good at chess is that people incorrectly think that chess players are smart. And so and really, I mean, I know a lot of chess players, they are idiots on the whole. The only thing they're really good at is chess. I mean, like Bobby Fischer, who's like a famous, he's considered the best player ever. He was like a schizophrenic, anti-Semitic, like just insane person. Like he was just insane. And but I will say this, because of chess, I got into college, I got into graduate school, I got my first job, I raised money for businesses and hedge funds. You say I say chess and what my ranking is, and then everybody just thinks that you're smart. I even try to tell them, I'm honest about it. I even try to say, look, chess doesn't mean anything. My dad was a good chess player, and I used to ask him, does this mean you could be a general? And he's like, no way. I'd be dead on the battlefield. But it is a beautiful game, though. It's a beautiful art, science, sport game, as is ping pong. Ping pong's a great game as well.
Let me ask you, being a chess fan, there's only so many moves. How many draws have you played to? Do you get pissed when you play to a draw? I'm a chess guy, so I'd rather lose than play to a draw. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I had a game earlier today that because I play online. I had a game earlier today where I was winning, and then I accidentally stalemated the guy, which is a draw. Like,
yeah.
And I kept thinking to him, why doesn't he just resign? He's losing. But then he last laugh was on him because he got into a stalemate and it was a draw. I hate that.
I can only imagine the comeback of that. But all right, so how did you pick up either one of these hobbies? Chess, ping pong. We didn't talk too much about ping pong, so let's start with that.
Ping pong. I've been, like many people growing up in suburban New Jersey. I grew up in suburban New Jersey. We had a ping pong table at my house, and all my friends had ping pong tables. So we just played. But here's the interesting thing: I played. So I took lessons in 2016 up in Spin, which is on 23rd and Park in New York City, and I had been playing ping pong for 40 years since I was a little kid. Every single thing I had done ever in ping pong was wrong. Like all my habits were bad habits. And I got pretty good only because I got really good at these bad habits. And then when the guy who was teaching me, he's one of the best players in the country, and he showed me, everything, like how all the good habits, like how to hold the racket, how to hit with topspin, all this stuff that for 40 years I wasn't doing. And then my ability just went straight down. Like when you have these habits, even if a game you've been playing for 40 years and then you learn good habits, it doesn't mean you're going to suddenly get better. It takes a long time for new skills and new habits to settle in. And so at first, when you learn anything hard and you learn a new way of doing things, you're going to suck at it for a really long time. So even like chess, if I suddenly learn like a new way to play or a new opening or whatever, then I'm going to suck for a good long time until I really understand it deeply.
Yeah, because you got to fix all the old habits, then you got to get used to the new habits, and then you got to get good at those, right?
Yeah, and it's so frustrating because you're used to being, you're used to playing a certain way and you're used to winning a certain amount of times, and then suddenly you suck really bad at something you've devoted a fair amount of your life to. That's kind of the hurdle as you get better at anything. Anything worth doing is going to mostly suck. So take tennis as an example. If you decide as a kid, I'm going to get great at tennis, I'm talented and I'm going to get great, as you improve, chances are you're going to lose the majority of your games because you're constantly playing against stronger and stronger resistance. And you're just going to suck most of the time as you're getting better. But that also is a good sign that you're playing something that is worth getting good at, because it's hard in that way.
Yeah, you don't get better at things, by playing people that aren't as good as you. You get better by going against better and better and better people. So
I'll give you an example from comedy. In comedy, so I was, before the pandemic, I was performing up to like 5 times a week, and sometimes famous comedians would come in. So there'd be like, Tracy Morgan, Bill Burr, whatever famous comedian was there that night. And I was always asked, do you want to go up before Bill Burr or Tracy Morgan, or do you want to go up after Chris Rock or whoever? And I would always, nobody ever wanted to go after a Chris Rock. But I would always say 100% of the time, I'm only going afterwards, because how am I going to learn? That's the only time during the show that this is rare that I get a chance to learn, but the audience is going to miss immediately the famous comedian. They're going to be texting their friends, I just saw Chris Rock or Dave Chappelle or whatever. And then here's this guy they never heard of, just go up there and not performing as well as the famous comedian. It's a hard audience to perform for.
Yeah.
So that's a big challenge.
Yeah, because normally after that, the crowd is going to be dead. That's who they came there for. They're going to be ready to go. Then you come up after. Yeah, I can imagine. You're only going to do one of two things, and the room is either going to be dead or you're going to crush it. So, I definitely see where you're coming from with that. But I do want to ask, and that's actually a good segue to this, about writing tips. And I feel like a lot of these could be related to comedy as well. Yeah. And, there were some that, I thought were really good, and others that I thought were also good, but I was a little bit surprised by them. And, some of the ones that I thought were good was, take what everyone thinks and explore the opposite. Just use said instead of he suggested, he bellowed. I'll put he exclaimed there because that's a personal problem I have with that one. I hate that one.
I hate it too. I think people should be able to figure out from the context what the emotions are. If you're only conveying emotion through he shouted or he exclaimed, then you probably aren't telling the story very well. And every article, whether it's fiction or nonfiction, is a narrative, tells a story. Yeah, that's the other thing. A lot of today's writers don't tell stories. They're like, well, I know a lot about X, Y, and Z, so I'm just going to write about X, Y, and Z. You still have to tell a story. We, as a species, we've communicated for, a million years with stories. That's how we pass information from generation to generation. That's what we're good at, is storytelling, not sharing information, but telling a story.
Yeah, no. The reason why I hate, exclaim those specifically, and this goes for the rest of them, like it's just you just find it a million different ways to say he said, like you mentioned. And I just feel like you don't need that many different ways. And the part with emotion, I think, is a good point to back it up. But
Yeah,
I
like
do
what if there's like what if you're telling a story of when you broke up with your wife or whatever, and she says, "I want to leave you," and it's much better to say, you know, you know, what if I finally this time go to rehab and really quick drugs, he said,
yeah.
as opposed to he cried out loud. Like you get the emotion by what's happening, not by the word.
Yeah, no, that's 100% true. There are some interesting ones in though, and I want to make sure I highlight these too. There's take a huge shit every day. You word it as bowel movement, and there's also paint or draw or find another way to exercise your creative muscles. There's also steal, and you clarify what you mean by saying piggyback off of popular ideas, but I read the first word and I'm like, this motherfucker is suggesting plagiarism. I like it.
I am suggesting plagiarism. So, you ever see that movie, The Legend of Bagger Vance?
Mm-hmm.
I actually haven't, no.
So
Dante
it was a best-selling book by Stephen Pressfield, and it was a movie. It became a movie with Matt Damon and Will Smith about a golf tournament in 1920s Atlanta, Georgia, and Stephen Pressfield later described every single beat of the Bhagavad Gita, which is the 3,500-year-old text in Hinduism. Every part of that story, he basically steals is maybe a heavy word, but he basically steals the entire structure of the Bhagavad Gita and translates it to a golf tournament in 1920s Georgia, beat by beat. It's that story, but in a different setting. And a lot of great stories, you'd be surprised, are basically other stories translated into. And the great thing about doing that is, so why would he use the Bhagavad Gita? Because that sounds like, who wants to read some weird alternative reality version of a Hindu religious text? Well, that text, that story, has been focus grouped by 3,500 years of a billion people. So he knows that the structure of that story works for billions of people. So he just takes that structure and applies it to the story he's writing. So that's a great example. But there's many examples. I mean, Star Wars is a combination of a Western and the story of Jesus and a couple other things. It's like all almost every great story has a predecessor in some way.
Okay, I have a question since you brought up Star Wars. I'm assuming you've seen Spaceballs.
Yeah.
Could that technically be an example, or because I just want to know?
No, that's not quite an example because it's a parody.
It's a parody.
Okay.
Because you know the connection between that and Star Wars. But with The Legend of Bagger Vance, you don't know I'll give you another example. I'll give you an example in nonfiction. So I once wrote I used to write for TechCrunch every week, which is a Silicon Valley blog. It was a popular tech blog or entrepreneur blog. And I wrote an article, 9 Ways to Fail as an Entrepreneur. And so just hold on to that thought for a second. There's a text written in 300 BC called the Yoga Sutras. And it's basically something like 100 or so lines, 108 lines or 140, I forget how many lines. It's like a poem that describes yoga and meditation and the purpose of yoga and so on. And there's one line in there, the 9 reasons people sometimes don't reach enlightenment. And so word for word, I took those 9 reasons and applied it to entrepreneurship because I knew for 2,000 years, people had this line had resonated with a large population of people. So I took it word for word, and it was one of my most popular articles ever. Every single reason. And it was an experiment. I didn't want to change a single word. I just, the actual 9 reasons, I used the exact words that are in the Yoga Sutras.
and you used it to, describe how you could fail as an entrepreneur. Basically, you just tried to relate the two.
Yeah. Right. So then I
Okay.
would do a little paragraph explaining how it relates to entrepreneurship. But not a single person recognized that it was from the Yoga Sutras, because they never will. They never will recognize. There's no reason for them to recognize it. Nobody recognized that the Legend of Bagger Vance was from the Bhagavad Gita. I've taken the Four Noble Truths from Buddhism. I've taken so many different pieces of text and then applied that to storytelling.
And he comes up with these great ideas by taking his shit. I like it. Good job, man.
Well,
I
okay.
appreciate it.
One time I did plagiarize a book, and I wanted to do an experiment. So I took 50 Shades of Grey, and I went on Fiverr, which is you can hire people like $5, $10, $15, and I hired this grad student to rewrite 50 Shades of Grey using a thesaurus. So every word had to be different but mean the same thing. So it was exactly 50 Shades of Grey, but instead of like she ran to her exams, it might be Jill quickly went to her tests or something like that. And so every sentence was synonyms. And then I published it on Amazon, and I didn't get any sales, so my experiment failed.
We didn't get any, not a one. You didn't even buy the book. Come on, man.
Well, no, I bought it. Actually, I don't even know. Jay, do you know what? I kind of forget. Maybe it's like Diary of a Shy Girl, or
no, it's like the journal of a
shy billionaire.
Shy girl, getting with billionaire or something like that. But I know your pen name though. Your pen name was Jackie Ling or something like that.
No, that was in my other pseudonymous book.
Right.
I forgot what I called this one. Oh well.
Let me see. The
but that was-
diaries or something. Yep.
That was the experiment. And so in that case I did plagiarize, but I just wanted to see what would happen.
Yeah. Haley, you know what I want to try one day?
Dear God,
Honestly,
what?
honestly, after reading that, I just want to, take a shit in the morning and see how much comedy I can write immediately after. I'm gonna be honest, and I just wanted to see what the reaction would be.
You know what, the waiter's pad's great with comedy, because you know how like all day long you'll be talking to your friends or your wife or whatever, and somebody says something and everyone laughs. Those are good to write down to just see later on if you could change it into a joke. Because like just because it's funny, it might not be a stand-up comedy kind of joke. Like I was just at the dentist yesterday, and I hadn't been to the dentist in a while, so she's like taking out all this gunk, and I have to rinse, and there's like a ton of blood every time I rinse, and I'm like, and I say to this nurse, I say, shit, this is like I'm having an abortion in my mouth right now. And she was like, that's not funny. And her saying that I felt was funny. And so I'm trying to figure out how to turn that into a joke.
Did you ever figure it out?
No. Well, it just happened yesterday.
Oh, really? Okay. I didn't know if like it happened like a while ago, and then maybe down the road you thought of something like after that. All right.
It was just funny to me. Like I thought, oh, that was just a funny way to say that, and then it was funny that she instantly responded, "That's not funny," and so that I thought was hilarious.
Yeah.
Yes, inappropriate laughter. I've been there. You do something inappropriate, and somebody tells you, and you just I thought it was funny. Fuck you. I'm laughing anyways, and they're just looking at you. Still not funny, sir. It's still not funny.
So yeah, sometimes my favorite jokes is when I describe the times I've bombed. Like those are like a good source of humor for me.
Yeah. Honestly, they don't have to find it funny. If I find it funny, I'll laugh at it.
Well, Brian Regan said in an interview once that he always views him like somebody asked him, who do you write for? Who are you telling jokes for? And he always says he pictures himself sitting in the middle of the audience. And if he can't make himself laugh, he's the only one he's trying to make laugh. And he doesn't care about anyone else. He's just writing for himself. And I think that's a pretty good strategy because it makes you a little bit more fearless, which is a big, the psychology of stand-up is very important.
Yeah. You're only thinking about, how you feel about the jokes. And, once you come to terms with it with yourself, I think it's a little bit easier to translate on stage. So I actually like that approach. But
yeah,
I do I do want to ask you, how did you get into comedy in the first place? Because I have a feeling it's not something, you started doing like early on. So what made you want to get into it personally?
Well, I was always really into stand-up comedy. I used to work at HBO in the 90s, and part of my job was interviewing comedians.
Okay.
So I met with Rodney Dangerfield, George Carlin, Dave Chappelle, Louis C.K., many guys who weren't as famous then. Dave Chappelle was like a teenager or something then. He
Ooh.
seemed like a teenager, and I would go to stand-up like a couple times a week just to watch, but I was terrified to actually do it. But then much later, I became a very active public speaker, and I was always doing corporate events because people liked my humor. I was always making these stiff corporate talks funny, and everyone would always ask me, "You should be a stand-up comedian," which is, of course, is a sign of death for most people. But I decided to give it a try. I had a friend who owned Stand Up New York, and he said, "Oh, you should come up on stage one time." So I did, and I got obsessed with it. I couldn't think about anything else for years other than comedy. Really, up until this pandemic, it's like 6 years, maybe 7. Now it's like 7. But right before the pandemic, I was touring all over the Netherlands, and we got back the day before all the shutdowns. And then
Wow.
since we've opened up a little bit, I've been performing, every week or so, or every couple of weeks.
Yeah, I got you. How is it down there? I've never actually been to the comedy scene down there, and I have parents that live in Florida. So, how's it like down there?
I didn't think there would be a comedy scene here, but so many people from New York and California are moving here that you can go to a show every night of the week. But they're not there's only 2 clubs that I know of really. There's the Palm Beach Improv and there's Side Splitters in Tampa Bay. There's probably others,
Okay.
but I've performed at those 2. But there's it's really promoter driven rather than club driven. So
Okay.
there are promoters who say, "Hey, they'll get a space in a bar on a Monday night, or an outdoor space at an outdoor restaurant on like a Tuesday night," and then they'll kind of gather up the people they know in the area and say, "Hey, do you want to do this show?" And then whoever shows up performs. So you could literally do a show here every night of the week, and it's not as like competitive as New York City. New York City is very hierarchical, where like, "Oh, are you passed at this club? Oh, I'm passed at this club, and you aren't." And I found there's a lot of weird, needless competition in New York.
Yeah, there's a lot of headaches with going up to the city, just the city in general. The comedy scene. I love the comedy scene in New York. That's why I kept going back as many times as I did before the pandemic. I was even going up a couple of times, when they opened up Eastville in November, December. But there are a lot of headaches that I don't think anyone, really mentioned. We just kind of dealt with it. But I mean, so you were around all these different comics. You were interviewing a bunch of different great comedians, George Carlin, Dave Chappelle, you mentioned. What's the biggest thing, you learned from being around comedy, doing comedy? What's the biggest thing you learned from comedy in general? This question's for anybody, by the way.
Yeah, so I'll take a stab at it, because it again, comedy is one of those things that is very hard and often unpleasant. Like when you bomb, it's a really unpleasant feeling, and yet you keep coming back for more. It's such an addictive, it's such an intense dopamine hit to make people laugh viscerally, and it's worth it. But it's probably the hardest skill I've ever had to learn, and that includes everything. Like, it's so insanely difficult. But I guess there's a lot of things I've learned. You learn about, you learn to read people very well, because you have to read basically in a club in particular, you have to read the entire audience. You have to know who's listening, who's not, who's kind of like fading away, particularly if they're sitting in the front, because even that can go viral. You have to be able to do crowd work. So that involves reading a lot of people, like looking at a couple. You have to figure out, is this their first date? Do they hate each other? Do they like each other? You have to know what to make fun of and where the line is, where you're going too far. So you learn very much a very specific skill of reading people. You have to learn how to improv, which I really appreciate. Like you get better and better at just making things up on the fly. Yeah. Also, you have to be really likable within the first few seconds of going on the stage. They don't know you. They don't know yet if you're funny or not. The first thing they're going to decide about you, and this is just humans in general, they're going to decide in the first few seconds if they like you. And if they don't like you, they're not listening to you. So likability, they will laugh at someone they like who is not funny. They will not laugh at someone who's funny who they don't like. So likability, you learn a lot of. And then just the art of, storytelling with a twist and conflating different ideas together in a funny way. Like it's just, and you learn how to use your voice in different ways. You learn, there's so many things. I mean, one of the things I love about comedy is that there's no one skill called comedy. No one says I'm good at comedy. You have to be good at joke writing. You have to be good at storytelling. You have to be good at improv. You have to be good at crowd work, stage work, likability, and on and on. And then you have to be kind of a hustler to get stage time.
Yeah. No, 100%. I think
sorry.
No,
just one more thing. Like, also, I didn't want to spend. Everybody kept telling me you can't just go up on stage. You just started, and so I had to learn very quickly how to so-called skip the line and get ahead on the stage. Get as much stage time as all these comedians who had been doing it for like 15, 20 years. And I think it was very frustrating to a lot of comedians that I did that. But I was helped by the fact that, I had a lot of comedians on my podcast. Basically, whatever had happened to me on stage the night before, I would ask the comedian about on my podcast. Like, what do you do when this happens or this happens? And I got, just hundreds of great answers.
Yeah, and you learn a lot when you do that. I've done that a bunch of different times on this podcast here, and not even necessarily about comedy. But I think the best thing that, I've personally learned from it is to not really take life so seriously. Because I remember, because this is my passion, podcasting, radio, that's where, my passion is. I love doing comedy. That's a very, very close second for me personally. But I remember, just trying to get, into radio, sports broadcasting, all those different things. And I remember, either I would get rejected, turned down here, turned down there, or, a bunch of different places on top of that wouldn't reply back. And I remember I fell into the deep depression at one point over it, when it was started going on for like months and months and months. And, you just get so dejected from that.
Yeah.
And I remember, I started doing comedy in 2018, around like March or April when I was feeling the worst about it. And, whether I would, do well on stage or not, it would just provide me with like relief for some reason. Because, I got to go up on stage and do something that hardly anybody else would do. And as I got better and better and better at it, I felt even better. Excuse me, because, I would make people laugh more often. I'd connect with people, with more and more, the more shows I did. And it became something that was fulfilling for me. And that's something that I wanted to continue even during the pandemic, with all the Zoom shows, with all the outdoor shows. And, along the way, I just learned to be happier again. And I just learned to, not take everything as seriously, that everything, is going to come within time, as long as I keep, putting the work in, keep being consistent, which I feel like I've done with this. And I've just kind of, learned to just be happy. And I think during the Super Bowl, just to kind of wrap the thought up, I, heard somebody talking about Tom Brady and, how happy he is playing football. And they said, are you happy because you're winning, or are you winning because you're happy? And that question is what stuck out to me. And, I realized, maybe these things are going the way they're going because, I've learned to be happier, with circumstances and everything going on. So I feel like I rambled a little bit.
No,
but
that's really good.
That's a cool
Comedy it's not just a skill, it's a way of life. And it does, I think you approach it the right way. I think I approached it too seriously in the beginning. And it's only when you just become more playful that your voice really starts to shine. Do you guys do comedy as well?
Oh yeah, that's what I was going to interject. Is I was sitting in Washington D.C. 3 weeks ago now almost at the inauguration on a crowdfunded trip, and John Legend shouted out my brand. And I was like,
Really?
I'm fucking Suit Man. Yeah, I'm Suit
All
Man.
right.
There's nothing
Yeah.
else. And I've got 3 things I was gonna say. Is you gotta. The first one was I at the beginning I never stopped asking to do stuff. Right. This is before I learned I could do without asking and started producing. But you never stop asking. Who's doing this? Who's doing that show? How can I get on this? How can I get on that? All these other things. The second one was try everything. I've done cooking shows. I think I'm about to announce an all-black boxing event we're working on putting out here in Seattle. Right?
I'll box in that if you want.
yeah. We'll
I'm
get
glad
you
you
to
asked
box Nate Robinson, James. Yeah, we'll get you in there, right? But
James versus Nate Robinson. I wonder who would win, considering how bad he got knocked out.
I'm not going to say anything against James.
He will win. He will win.
Yeah. And
Don't
then
put him in that
I
situation.
did these cut videos that got me about 5.5, 6 million hits so far.
Wow.
They're calling me the Black Seth Rogen. Like we had, remember Jacob
You
was.
sound like Seth. Holy shit, you sound like Seth Rogen.
we
I've
did.
seen it. I've done it.
Wait,
So
do
we
it.
did it.
Laugh like him. I'm totally seeing Seth Rogen now.
Hey, how you doing, James? What's up? Watch my new movie, Knocked Up. Yeah. Ah! So,
That's great.
The guy last week, Jacob, came on and he was recording this shit. And before we started, he said, "Yeah, my crowd thinks Seth Rogen's on here." I said, "Great, cool. I'm gonna give you a plug." Like that's the new thing. But
That is great.
you do all these different things, and I've had people see me and stuff. Ooh, hey. And I got like a decent little movie audition this tomorrow by today. I
Cool.
gotta do, and you know what I mean? Like, and then the last one was you gotta get out and go everywhere. And it was kind of the consistency thing. And also the idea, kind of what you were talking about, is you had all this feedback from 100 different comedians, right? That were good.
Yeah.
Usually you got to go to 100 different places to get that. You got lucky you had them coming to you.
Yeah.
But if you go to different open mics and you bomb like you talked about, you're going to learn more than if you sit at the same club and people like you and the same 30 people think you're funny.
I agree. Like, of course, I'm a co-owner of Stand Up New York, but I actually don't like performing there. I like performing at every club but Stand Up New York because I'm just too comfortable in the club. That's why I like traveling all around the country and seeing different audiences and different cultural parts of America or even outside of America. It's you learn a lot.
Well, yeah, I did. Oh, well, we did Canada the first time, and I do a Girl Scouts cookie joke, and I do jokes about being mixed and racism, and I was like, "Fuck, are these Canadians gonna get this?" And so I was literally on my phone. I'm over here looking. Do they have Girl Scouts in Canada? You know what I mean? Like, do they sell the cookies and shit? Because I didn't know, right? And sure as shit, they got all the jokes, and I was like, "Motherfucker, if I can go up to BC and make these fuckers laugh, I'm funny." You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm doing comedy in Idaho now. We're taking my show. I got a call called WAP, Women Are Funny, playing off the new theme, WAP, right? And I'm taking my black comedy show. People are like, "You're taking a woman's show and a black comedy show to Idaho?" I was like, "Fuck yeah. If I'm not proving to other people we're funny and we're doing it by going to somewhere you don't expect it,
Have
where else
you
can I do it?"
have you performed at the DC Improv?
Not yet. No, sir.
Do you know Tony Woods?
Tony Woods out. Yes.
Yeah, because he's in DC. So
Yeah.
I always travel with him. Like when we went to the Netherlands, we're going in a few weeks to I forget, Cleveland. Great city of Cleveland.
I like the way he said that. Cleveland. Yeah, we're going to Cleveland.
I'm looking forward to it. Cincinnati was like my favorite audience.
No, I definitely want to travel when the pandemic's over for sure. And the first 2 places that I have in mind are Virginia, DC, Maryland. That's 3 places, but I mean, they loop together, so we'll count it as 2. But the reason why is because of all the different people that I've met from those areas. And I want to, go to meet them first, especially because, when you think of all the people around the country that, you've been able to meet through Zoom and, everything happening, which is really a blessing despite everything going on, they're there first. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I and the other thing is about what I realized during this pandemic time, look at like a lot of my favorite comedians now kind of did a nice pivot to podcasting during this time. Like you almost forget about the non-podcasting comedians and guys like Tim Dillon, Chris Stefano, Andrew Schultz. These guys like totally blew up. I mean, they were already big anyway, but they totally blew up the past 10 months from their podcasts.
No, without a doubt, because
And
everybody's
you meet a much bigger audience that way. Like, Chris Stefano, they'll get like 40,000 viewers as opposed to like, a club of 100 people.
Yeah, and because they're able to get people to like sit down now and be able to watch all these different things because they're stuck inside. Like I tell people all the time, we've been stuck inside so long, like it makes sense to me why Harold and Kumar went to White Castle. Like
how that was a whole movie, right, dude?
We're
going to White Castle.
That's good. Kumar was just in a movie. And he was playing a politician, which was interesting because he worked for Obama. He quit acting and worked for Obama for a while. Anyway,
I mean, this whole time I just accepted it because I'm pretty fat. So I was like, you know what? This doesn't really make any sense, but it's okay. But it all makes sense to me now. But
well, I'm pretty ugly, so it finally started to make sense to me. Here's a use for this. I can make fun of myself on stage. So.
Hey man, I'm with you on that.
Haley, are you a comedian?
Yeah, I am.
Where do you perform?
I would perform a lot in the Village.
Okay.
Obviously I can't right now, but
like Grizzly Pear?
No.
Greenwich Village Comedy Club?
Yeah, Greenwich Village.
That's actually oddly my favorite comedy club to perform in.
That's my home one.
Why is that?
Really? It's so tightly packed in. First off, it's disgusting. That's fine. But it's so tightly packed in that you just have to kind of like, move a little weird and like laughter goes viral. And with social distancing now in other clubs, it's hard. You have to really work at it to get the laughter to go viral because when people are close to each other, one person laughs, the person 1 inch away laughs, and so on. And I've never seen, every time I go to Greenwich Village Comedy Club, it's like insane viral laughter. Like I love that place.
Yeah, it bounces off the walls because it's so tightly packed, and the stage is like so small that you're able to really interact with pretty much the entire crowd because you can see everybody. The back ones it's a little hard, but you've got like the first 2 rows like all around the stage. It's really a nice setup, even though it's disgusting as you mentioned. The green room is the kitchen itself. And, you got. It would be impossible to do a show right there because the kitchen hallway is so fucking narrow. I'm surprised I fit my shoulders through it when I walk in the door. I'm a big dude.
Yeah, I usually go with my wife, so I sit with her instead of going in the green room because it's not green, it's like linoleum. So it's a weird
rusted brown.
And yes, they serve quote unquote food there, but
it's weird how those hole in the walls are some of the best atmospheres. In Washington State, we got a place called Vomity on Olympia, and I think it holds maybe 40 people, but it's like an old school closet of a room with a whole bunch of lights and like old school seats from like the 40s or 50s, you know what I mean?
Oh, I love that.
Like where it's all cast iron and they fold down, like, you know what I mean? They fold down like a baseball stadium, but it's just like an intimate little hole in the wall. And like you said, one person laughs, and next you know, the whole place is laughing, and it's sweating, and people are vaping, and it's an awesome time.
I love clubs like that.
Yeah, I love audiences like that too. So I want to go to Haley really quick because we all mentioned some of the things we learned from comedy, but you didn't go. I don't know if Jay is a comedian or not. If he is, he has to answer this too.
In Malaysia, Jay is considered a very funny man.
Yes, and I'm not a comedian myself, but I think my whole life is comedy. So,
all right, why is that? I want to hear about this.
No, I'm just
That's
making
some
fun
self-confidence.
Yeah, well, because I'm not a good-looking
shoulders
guy.
off.
I'm not a good-looking guy. That's why.
Oh, that's fair. I'm not either. But all right. Haley, what's the biggest thing you learned from comedy? Go.
All right. Well, since I haven't been doing it for that long, I don't know that I've learned everything I'm going to learn. But I think the big one is like you can't care. Like you have to just not care and just get up there and do it.
Yeah. Was that hard for you when you first started?
No.
No. All right. Yeah, that makes things
That's
really
hard.
easy for you.
That's hard for me. It was hard for me to do that. I was really like nervous, and then just over
I think
time.
you just have to think that you're funny, and you're like, well, I am gracing this audience with my humor.
Yeah, like that's a really good point. Like one guy told me in the beginning when I had just been doing it for like a year, this guy told me, "Listen, you know more about comedy having done it a year than anybody in the audience. So don't let them intimidate you."
Exactly.
Yeah.
See, I was hella confident first, and then I found out I was funny, and I was like, I got to be funny all the time. So then I started getting scared, and I was like, I don't want to do new material. I do this shit that works. Why would I? So I'm at a. I mean, I've been doing it a little less than John. I'm in 3 years, but I'm getting to that
About
point
the same.
where I'm getting to that. I'm trying to redo, trying new stuff again instead of being stuck in my routine and my 15 to 20 I got.
Yeah, you gotta roll with it. You gotta, because I was looking back at my notes and I'm like, holy shit, I've been doing this joke since 2017, 2018.
yeah.
I thought I had mixed it up more, and so now I've been rewriting everything. And
I mean,
you know,
if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
no, I think though you always have to push yourself and to say new things and to like at the day after Ruth Bader Ginsburg died, my wife told me I was performing at Tampa Bay Side Splitters, and my wife told me, whatever you do, do not make a joke about Ruth Bader Ginsburg, which of course meant
That's
I
a
had to
challenge.
make a joke about Ruth Bader Ginsburg. So stuff like that. I always find little challenges to sort of try to throw into the act.
Yeah, I was about to say he definitely took that as a challenge. He didn't even have to finish that sentence. As soon as
I took it.
he had no joke planned for that until that was said. And that's when he started coming up with that joke. Honestly, I think recycling jokes is okay if you write them a different way or if you add something to a certain routine. I have a bunch of different jokes about where I work, which is Amazon. And
whoa, you work at Amazon? What do you do there?
I'm in ship dock, so I'm loading the trucks.
Okay, send me some stuff.
Yeah, so I can give him smiles while I'm mad as hell and dead inside. All right, thanks, bro. I appreciate that. But honestly, I just added the fact that and I added this to my routine. They wrote me up 3 weeks ago, right? My birthday was about 10 days ago. I'm pretty sure this is Amazon's way of telling me happy birthday.
When's your birthday?
It was the 30th. It just passed.
Oh, it was the 22nd. You guys, I'm sorry about this. I have to go. I'm going on some right-wing TV show, and I have to go to it.
No, that's perfectly
I think I'm talking
okay.
about. I think I'm talking about New York City is dead. They always want to talk to me about that.
Oh,
Is
Jesus
that still
Christ.
going after like 5-6 months?
Wait, quickly. What's happened in New York City? Someone got decapitated? Because I don't even look at the news anymore.
I haven't heard any news about it. My friend just texted me that, so I was like, all right, I guess I'm not going to get groceries today.
That is the first thing you should bring up on Fox News if that's where you're going.
No, it's like the first or something like that. But all right, thanks so much. I'll come on anytime. This was fun. I'll see you guys later.
I'd love to bring you back on.
Yeah,
Thank you
anytime.
for coming on, man. Appreciate
Just like
that.
say, we'll schedule it anytime. Talk to you later.
All right.
See ya.
Awesome, brother.
All right,
Yeah,
now that James is gone, now we talk bad about James. God damn it, God!
Damn it, all this mansplaining, that's bullshit.
What's with that hair? I don't get it. No, I'm just joking. I'm totally just joking.
Jay is gonna have all this shit to say now that James had to leave to go on his right-wing TV show.
I was gonna say, he said like 10 times the words he said earlier already. Goddamn.
No. He's a man of the hours. I'm just sitting here to hang out,
Yeah, no, honestly, I didn't mind at all 100%. I was like, why is Jay's microphone been muted this entire show?
Also, I'm not that.
He's writing things down to start his comedy career.
I know. I'm like,
Hey,
well,
he
I have
said
a boss.
plagiarism's okay, Jay. You're good. He said it's okay, right?
And like, look at me. I'm Chinese, so I pretty much take everything and turn it into mine.
No, you know what he's gonna do? He's gonna become the next Soup Man. He's gonna take my joke about Amazon and White Castle.
Yeah, and I'm just, I just translate it into Chinese, and that's mine. You know?
I was gonna say,
No, I
suits
know.
are a little cheaper over there. He could get a couple more than I can. I know how this works.
Yeah.
Bro.
Oh, yeah.
Bro, I'm telling you, this is exactly why Haley was quiet the entire show, because she knew she would get everything stolen from her.
She knew. She's like, I know that guy's gonna do something.
Like she saw this,
I would like to know anything of quality I have to steal. Let's start there.
like she saw.
If you're gonna steal it, let me know. It's gonna make me feel better. Come on now. I heard what Haley said. They're stealing my shit, bitch. You hear that? Yeah.
Like she saw all this coming from a guy who appears on right-wing TV, and she was the first person to go #stop the steal. She was the first person.
I'm mad at how he said that. Like he said it as if he was okay with what's going on the show, or was he not? Like, is he the antagonist, or is
Like, is he gonna go on and make fun of them for being dumb? Like, we need to know where he stands.
Yeah.
Well, James.
Did you have the same feeling, Haley? Like
James stands.
No, I have the same thing.
James stands very natural. So like he doesn't have any side. Let's put it that way. So he's in the middle. So he's going on the left, going on the right. Yeah, he will. He just want to. He's the kind of person who just want to have conversation with everyone to know what.
That's not good enough for you either. I can see it in your eyes. Like when a guy's like, "Can't we just hang out?" She's like, "No. Are we committed or not?" That's not the answer I wanted. I've seen those eyes before. Yeah. I can tell how she was like, no, that's not a real answer. I'm not happy with that. Are we buying Christmas presents or not?
It's like you always got him on the fence, but you can never get him one way or the other. She's just like, no.
She's like, I want my answer to answer this way.
Yeah. But honestly, the next show is gonna start in a few minutes, so I do have to start wrapping things up. But I'm honestly, really glad, you guys took the time. I'm glad James had a good time. I hope you had a good time as well, man.
Oh yeah. I mean, I love this. So I'm James' producer, so I always listening. So like I enjoy listening to like conversations,
Yeah, no.
And he did say something different because I have been working with James for about 4 years now, and I can hear from interview to interview it's almost the same, but now like everyone contributes something different. And I think to be honest, I think he prefer to go on like comedy shows like you guys. He can make jokes and stuff rather than having like a serious conversations.
Yeah, he doesn't he doesn't have to be like a certain way, he doesn't have to watch what he says, obviously where he's going now he's got to watch what he says.
Oh, yeah.
So I understand that 100%. Yeah. It's like when you get it's like when you get sports guys on, and they have to be so careful about the things they say because they're protecting a brand. They're trying to protect like teammates, coaches, families, opposing guys. They're trying not to say the wrong thing about anything when all these other people have all these opinions that they want to say about what's going on. So I get where he's coming from, 100% with that.
Yeah,
but
and also like a lot of those shows, like whether left or right, like they have their own agenda, and then they just want. So they will create questions in a way that they just want James to say something that way, and then they can use it and put it out of context. I mean, that happens a couple of times,
Yeah, no.
The New York City is that article.
They push opinions down your throat. No, I get that 100%. But once again, thank you for coming on, Soupman, Dante. Thank you, brother. Appreciate you. I don't know why you got your microphone on mute. I'm trying to make people think I got Seth Rogen on the show.
Steph's here, bitch. How you doing, John Brecco? We got a new movie coming out with John Jay and Haley. Maybe we'll put this Soupman jackass on there. We'll see what happens.
Tomorrow you have 4 million views on your on your podcast.
One day.
So I did the cut video last week, and they're gonna try to get a video with me and Seth.
Oh, nice.
That'd be cool.
But I think it's gonna be guess who's Seth Rogen.
Right.
And see
Awesome.
You can just use the dick fake technology to put Joe Rogan face on you,
No, if I do my hair when my hair's done, we actually look a lot alike.
Really?
It's pretty scary, yeah.
They both, bro. Honestly, if they both just put a man bun around their head, you might have a hard time telling who's who.
Oh yeah.
But thank you, brother. Appreciate you, Haley. Thank you for coming on too. I had fun
Anytime.
bringing all you guys on, and I hope everybody had fun too. This has been the Round Table on HamiltonRadio.net channel HR2. We'll be back same time. Actually 9 p.m. Excuse me. We'll be back 9 p.m. same channel next week, right here on Hamilton Radio. Deuces, everybody.
All right. Thank you.
I don't even remember how to leave this shit. Yeah, I can just hit the X. It's all.